Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and welcome back to Prepper Pantry Pick of the Week. And this week's Prepper Pantry Pick is chicken broth and chicken stock. This is the Simply Nature organic brand, and I want to talk a little bit about stock and broth in general, and then what you get in the container here, what we got at Aldi's, right? So we'll start with the chicken stock. This was $1.45, so there's 4 servings per container, 10 calories per serving, so a total of 40 calories in the container, right? Now, it's not, I'm just going to say it's not a significant source of calories based on the nutritional information in the container, right? So this is 40 calories in the container. So to get to 1500 calories, you would need 38 of these containers, 32 ounce containers of stock, which would be 9 gallons or 76 pounds of stock you'd have to consume to stay above the starvation level, right? It's listed in pounds, not gallons, which is 32 ounces. So you could look at pounds, you could look at gallons. It feels very liquidy, so I would say you would need to consume 9 gallons of stock to get to 1500 calories. So in that sense, the broth is half the calories, so it would be double 18 gallons of stock. It's not heavy on calories, so you're not going to live on stock, you're not going to live on broth, right? And I didn't want to go too far into that, but that's the numbers we usually look at in terms of your long-term food storage pantry is calories per day and cost for those calories. So you would be looking at $55, 38 containers, and you'd be looking at about 165,000 milligrams of salt. So not intended as a food replacement, right? The calories just aren't there. So looking at the packages, the chicken stock says it's low-fat, gluten-free. The chicken broth is fat-free, gluten-free, so in that sense that might be important for you. If you want the gluten-free, they're both gluten-free. If you want fat-free, you got your chicken broth. So I want to kind of go a little further on that and kind of jump out a little bit on what we're looking at here. So chicken stock, right, is generally made from bones. So we make a lot of stocks and we make a lot of broths at home. Your stock is generally made from bones, where the broth is made from more of the flesh, right? So you might say, boil an entire or process an entire chicken to make broth, where the stock is really just the bones. So in that sense, when you're making it yourself and you're boiling bones or simmering bones to make stock, it's sort of free in that sense, right? Unless you had some other plan for the bones, you were probably just going to throw them away, take the time and make the stock. Now, on the two boxes, the only difference I can really tell is the stock has vegetable juice and the broth has vegetable flavors, right? So I'm not sure these are great representations of what you might be expecting from stock and broth. Nothing against Simply Nature. I might just be misunderstanding what's on the box, what I'm reading on the box here. So usually your stock is going to have more nutrients, more vitamins and minerals than broth, contains more than double the electrolytes, good source of potassium, higher in protein, carbohydrates, fat, and calories. So usually when we look at stock and broth, we're making it ourselves, and it's very nutritious. When I look at these, just trying to understand, once again, nothing against the brand or the product, I'm not really seeing any of that here. You can see yourself, pretty much everything on the stock is zero except for fat and sodium. It doesn't really list any of the nutritional content you might be expecting from stock, and then the same thing on the broth. It has some sugar, some sodium, but zero on your vitamins and whatnot. So once again, I'm not really seeing what I would expect to see, and I might just be misunderstanding what I'm looking at here. But in terms of the nutritional content you would expect from broth or stock, I'm not seeing it on the box. But in general, it is going to be nutritious in the sense that you're capturing that from the animal, right? The animal carcass, whether it's the bones or the flesh or anything like that. And so generally you would look at things like stock and broth as rather nutritious. They're not a meal replacement by any way, certainly not these, unless you want to consume 18 gallons of broth in a day, which doesn't sound healthy or possible, right? So I stand behind stock, I stand behind broth. As I said, we make it a lot, and a lot of the times it's just made out of the things you would probably discard anyway, which is you boil your bones, right? We've made pork broth, pork stock, we've made a chicken, we've made beef, and we use it for a lot. You can use it as a basis for soup. You can use it if you're making things like gravy, or you could put it in with your rice as flavoring for rice. You could use it to make ramen. We do all sorts of stuff with stock and broth. I'm not seeing that on these packages, and it might just be me not understanding. This is, I suspect, more of a flavoring, right? If you want that stock or broth flavoring that you're adding to your meal, great. I would advise to look into either making it yourself, or maybe just being aware of what's on the package in terms of nutritional information if you're looking for something else. Something I did want to point out, and I sort of did this intentionally, this one expires in 2025, so you'd say about a 3-year shelf life. This expires in 2024, so 2-year shelf life. It's not that stock has a longer shelf life than broth. I found containers on the shelf that expired in 2025. Could have got that, but I had kind of had a reason behind. I grabbed it even though it was 2024, as we're starting to see more of that. I suspect, and I have no evidence, but given that this is a year less on the shelf life, it's probably a year older. It's probably been sitting around in a warehouse or whatever for a year longer than the one that expires in 2025. And we noticed that on some cranberries, some canned cranberries we bought. I think it had a 2025 expiration date. We got it home, and I looked at one we've had on the shelf since last year, and the one we got last year also had a 2025 expiration date, which makes me wonder if they're not the same batch, right? Or if they weren't packaged around the same time, the stuff I bought last year and the stuff I bought this year, probably the same manufacturing time period, more or less. So I think we're seeing more of that, and I don't know if that means there's supply chain issues or they're just burning off stock or what it is, but certainly keep an eye on your Best By dates, and you probably already do. As I said, these are both in the store, bought them at the same time. One's 2024, one's 2025. I suspect it's fresher, but they're both within the Best By date, so I'm sure they're okay to sell them. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but just something to be aware of. If you want one that's a year younger or produced a year sooner, this is probably the way to go. So I hope that helps out. Once again, I was sort of disappointed, honestly, with the boxed stock and broth. They do have a good shelf life, couple years on the box. I don't see the nutritional information that I was hoping to see to make it worthwhile to say stock in your pantry, right? We're looking at nutrition. It's not a significant source of calories or anything else. The only thing I'm seeing significant is the amount of salt, right? And if you're going to drink 18 gallons or whatever it is, you're getting a ridiculous amount of salt, and you can't do that. So that's a non-issue, but I wouldn't want to turn you off from stock and broth in general. I think there's some very healthy options, especially if you're making it yourself, or there might be some brands that have different nutritional values there. And once again, it's reusing stuff you were probably going to throw away anyway, and you're capturing the nutrients from that. So I hope that helps out. Once again, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.